your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mackie.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out.
With Dave and Mackie.
Thanks for filling that in.
Hey?
Hey, I know, I see what you did there. On the did a great job broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on Revolution.radio, where it's more than just radio, so jump in the chat room if you can. This is show number 326.
620 and 300.
Oh, very nice. It's on air, online, and on your smart device, so grab an app to listen from anywhere, and I do mean anywhere. Or you can pick that up stuff. Get a Grace tabletop digital radio, and by the way, if you Grace, hey, send me one. If you missed Solaris' show, like I did, she had about alien implants. I'm so sorry I missed it.
I actually caught quite a chunk of it. It was very interesting.
Yeah, awesome. That's what it's all about. But see, I didn't. So I'm going to go into the archives and download the show. And I can listen to it while I commute. How cool is that, right? See, that's where we're going. It does cost $5.95 to a month, that is, to access the Freedom Slips archives. You can check out her shows, our shows, all the host shows. And we really want you to do that. Now, we acknowledge, that's Meki and I, that Shiny Side Out acknowledges original custodian of Luck and Jung, and where Meki lives, it's the
Daruk.
You know, sometimes it sounds like it's a D, sometimes it sounds like a G.
It's definitely a D.
A D, yes. And we pay our respects, honestly and sincerely, to elders, past, present, and future. And let us remember that beneath our houses, concrete roads and buildings are lands which have had stories passed down for 240,000 generations. And I'm being a little generous there. We predict maybe even more than that. Meki, how are you and how's your week been?
Oh, look, can't complain. Pretty good. Interesting. Of course, it always is. I don't know if there seems to be a lot of latency potentially on the line today. I apologize for that. I was meant to get NBN this month.
Oh.
This month. And it's been pushed out to September. There's a shock. NBN is the National Broadband Network in Australia. It's meant to bring us or catch us up to the rest of the world. Ha ha! Sure it is. Well, look, right now I'm hanging not even off a satellite of a node, off an exchange of a satellite of a node, which is, putting me very far away. So as the crow flies, the node is probably about, I want to say about 5, 6, maybe even 7 kilometers away from my physical location. There's like a couple of hops in between. But in the suburb, they did not build any of the required infrastructure. Anyway, so I do apologize if there's a lag or if my sound is not coming through as good as it could be. There's nothing I can do from my end. I've rebooted everything. Everything is been good from my end, but Dave tells me from where he's sitting. Having said all of that, it has been an interesting week globally as well. I do have to say one thing before we start. A person that I personally admire quite a bit for the point of view they have brought, for the insights, and even though they're just the funny thing is this, right? Activists are people that just, I guess, happen. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your job is, and how you start. I'm talking about Anthony Bourdain, who they say took us live this week in Paris while working on one of his episodes, obviously featuring Paris. So the funny thing is that, okay, depression is a real thing, I get it, but I don't understand why he specifically would kill himself. He's been extremely outspoken in the Harvey Weinstein affair. There
you go.
Now, his girlfriend was assaulted by Harvey, right? So, and he spoke up publicly. He was quite an advocate. He went to Palestine. He went to Syria. He went to Iran. he went to all those places to eat, and he showed the American, specifically audiences, that these aren't people necessarily to fear. They're just people. They're having food. I mean, he even broke bread with Obama. You know, it's a fascinating thing for a man who was a cook. He was an executive chef in the end, before he became famous in New York, Le Hall. But he came to, I guess, the act. He became an unwitting activist. Okay, he was in Lebanon when the recent troubles started. They were all recent. It's probably 4 or 5 years, or maybe longer now. A few years ago, he was there when the bullets started flying, and they evacuated him out of the area. And there he is now, allegedly having committed suicide. In my opinion, the jury is out on that, but I mean, you never know what happens in the world. Anything is possible.
Another suicide as well, making handbag designer Kate Spade.
Yes, you're correct.
Found hanged.
Yes, so he also is alleged to have hanged himself. So
see, I maybe that's the calling card of the whoever they are these days.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, certainly he stepped on enough toes. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know about. Look, I know nothing about Kate Spade at all, except that my wife actually alerted me to her exploration because I actually had bought items for my wife. I think it was Christmas or birthday, I can't recall. And she goes, this is the lady. And I said, oh, wow. Well, yeah, look, these things tend to happen in threes, so I guess we can look forward to another, I guess, famous person, choosing the suicide. I want to say this, though, to everybody, all the listeners, all friends and well-wishers and otherwise.
Yeah.
Are you okay? If you're not okay, it's okay not to be okay, right? I know.
I get that.
I know that there will become a time in everyone's life, and I had that experience once, where you stand on a train platform and you're just going, I don't know, to school, to work, wherever you're going, and you're looking and you're going, you just can't. You can't see it developing for you. You can't see how you could ever break out of the cycle that you're in, and you're the coupled with the helplessness that you feel is overwhelming. I had that experience in my very, very 20s, and I was standing at the station going, wow. I could not see my way forward at all. It's weird, right? Because I had a weekend job. I was doing okay overall, but I could not see myself out of that life. It's a very powerful feeling. So that it's not rational. It's not sensible. It doesn't make it. Why should you feel? It just happens. So if you do feel like that, you feel like there's nothing for you. There's no way forward. The way back was all bad, and the current situation is completely beyond your control, and you don't want to be in it. Trust me, there's always something coming. There's always something coming. Hope, this is going to sound cheesy, but it was the last thing that Pandora had in the box that she opened, right? And hope is what enables us to deal with everything that is thrown at us. If we didn't have hope, if hope was not an emotion we could feel or a state of mind we could get into, in an instant. It is hope that keeps everybody going. And even if it seems hopeless, to try not to take that route. Dave?
Yeah, I'm just going to add something to this because it's a very tough subject. You're right. Are you okay? It's the best question you can ask anyone. The next one is notice what their answer is. Because if you're asking, then you're going to be there. Notice what their answer is. If they just immediately say no, yeah, what? Everything's good. Ask again. Because the first time in call, you're not supposed to end the tree. You wave the conversation on, but really, how are things going? And you'll get a different response. And if someone is in a state that requires assistance, the best thing you can do is, way gentle as it may be, to say, if it's suicide, for instance. The message I'm sending you right now, don't believe them. Your brain is lying to you. It's not telling you the truth. Get through the next minute. And then reevaluate. Don't act. And then the next minute, do the same thing. Repeat. Because it'll go away. Those thoughts will go away and you'll have gotten through that. Some tunnels are short, some are longer. But you really need to get through it. And there's a recent book from a suicide survivor who took that path of being able to shield themselves from their own brain's thoughts, to isolate the core of their being, to say, no, I really do want to live, and brain, what are you doing to me? That's silly talk. There's nothing is so bad as to want a suicide, unless, of course, there was a large creature just about to squeeze you, where you could actually still say, you know what, I want to enjoy that experience. I want to live through it. I want to live it.
Oh, look, Dave, sorry to interrupt. I just have the third one. The younger sister of Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, apparently just earlier committed suicide as well. Yeah.
You know, Maggie, I keep saying that this shift in maybe the shift we're experiencing is due to some external forces.
Potentially, yeah.
Maybe, right? So we talked about, you know, the Mayans said the Dark Rift. Maybe this is a whole period of being on the other side. Maybe it's the anti-world. You know, it's one side of the galactic plane and maybe we have to get through this, but maybe it's a long time, we've got to get through it. Maybe this is another time where, you know, religions start warring against each other. Oh, well, actually, that's just the same as all the other times. Maybe this is, you know, a dark way of thinking, and we have to honestly isolate us. Maybe, and those other people who are conspiratorial and open to ideas, maybe this is the 4Gs. You know, maybe this is what they started turning on 5G. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe there's a source that they're creating accidentally, or whether it's on purpose, or whether it's the harps of the world. I'll let you guys go through that idea. But for me, I'm not sure what it is. I think the whole world's gone crazy. I really do. Anger, people are short to anger now, like they've never been before. Have we lost patience? Meki, is the smartphone life, this instantaneous, has that contributed maybe?
So I think you hit a very pertinent point here, and I think you're absolutely correct in saying that we have lost patience. We want instantaneous gratification. The smartphone, yeah, absolutely. Not just, I mean, the whole technology surrounding this, like instantaneous gratification, instantaneous communication, instantaneous everything. Like, I want something and I want it now. Which is, look, I don't want to unfairly generalize, which it is an unfair generalization, but in the Western world, in the developed world, which is no longer just the Western world, the generation that is growing up that is called the millennials and the post-millennials, living in a world that has never been, for them, if they're privileged, has never been disconnected. So there's millions of young people who take for granted the immediate ability to find out information. I mean, no matter whether that's right or wrong, but they can. So when I went to university, I had to go to the library and read books and do research and read magazines and talk to people to get the knowledge. These days, I can Google it, I can go to Wikipedia, I can go to any of the other knowledge repositories that are correct. Well, some are not, some are more correct than others. It doesn't matter really, but the point is, you can get the information instantaneously. Now, that is translated to everything else in life. I mean, I don't like a restaurant. In the past, I just wouldn't have gone back. Now, I can leave a review. Or I like something very much, and I post that as well. So my entire life, when people talk about privacy, it's funny. My entire life is completely open. I give all my, but certainly the younger generation, they don't really care about data privacy? It doesn't seem like they do, because they just share everything. Everything is open source, open APIs. You can you put everything on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it might be, right? So I think, number one, yes, there's a social element to it, number one. Number two, I do believe there are some physical things that are different now. And we are exposed to a lot more, radiation pollution than we ever had been in the past.
Yep.
So there's a lot more radiation flying out through the air than there ever was at any point in time. We do know, this is a fact, we do know there are cancer clusters around high power lines. Right? You get these massive, constructs. We know that, and that's radiation. We also know that microwaves aren't good for you. So we know a whole bunch of stuff, and we have seen the effects. But how much radiation do you think is being generated by all these wireless devices? Bucket loads.
Off the charts.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about whales beaching themselves, dolphins beaching themselves, and all that stuff, and bees dying. I'm not saying that's not something unrelated, but what I'm saying is there could be very strong indications, in my opinion, that the pollution that we are facing, which we can't see, forget the plastic, forget lead, forget all the chemicals. I mean, it's horrible enough, but it's what is really bad and what's really worrying is the pollution that you cannot see. So radioactive pollution is pretty immediate. If you're exposed to radioactive material like in Fukushima, you're going to die pretty quick. It is the other slow-acting radiation that we are exposed to every single day. We don't even know what that's going to do to us yet. This is the first 10 years of connectivity as it is today. I mean, we've never had anything like that in the past. Dave, this could be likened to a gamma burst, or maybe some like a supernova explosion. 20 light years away. Who knows? I have no idea what the effects will be.
No one does, and we're accepting this technology and what it has to offer us. And is the side of the balance, our health, going down the line? Is that what's causing? Because you have to say, consistently through 2G to 3G to 4G, it follows the same correlation as this crazy, dangerous behaviour and people, having negative thoughts. We don't know where it's going. But Meki, I mean, it's not just the humans on the planet that's going crazy. I'm seeing the volcano once again.
Look,
it's 2,100 and 1 earthquakes in the last week.
It's pretty bad. Then there's Guatemala, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
We lost entire villages yet again. So look,
600 houses.
Yeah.
And Meki, think about this from a scale point of view. 45 kilometers away from the volcano is where it's seeping out the lava. These rifts, 45 kilometers. That's Meki. That's almost between you and me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a huge distance.
It's a distance, all right. It's nothing to sneeze at.
If you live 30 miles from a volcano, you probably go, I'm probably all right.
Yeah.
No.
So the answer is highly unlikely. In fact, Solaris' show earlier, Stephen Colbert, how do I pronounce it correctly? Stephen Colbert, he mentioned that he believes that certainly Yellowstone could go off. Now, if Yellowstone, and look, there's a lot of volcanic activity. Hawaii is unusual, Dave. It's an unusual amount of activity. There's always activity. I need to make something clear to everybody out there. The Earth is in constant seismic turmoil. The tectonic plates, they're rubbing against each other. The continental plates. There's always something going on from a seismic point of view, from an earthquake point of view, from a volcanic point of view. Always. And we always have them here and there in earthquakes. I mean, but right now, the clustering, which is, in my opinion, I haven't seen it, unprecedented in Hawaii, and we're having massive eruptions as well, activities in previously fairly wide areas. I mean, Guatemala, Fuego Volcano, which is the mountain there. I look at pictures here of the massive pyroclastic flow, which is the mud and so forth that comes down the mountain, including the lava. It is scary. It's scary stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at pictures from before and after. Like there's a picture in aerial here, before the mud flow and the lava flow, and after it's just obliterated. The entire village is obliterated. So if Yellowstone were to go, and I'm saying that it's, I'm not saying it will, but I mean, indications are
actually when.
Well, it's a when. Like
it's a when.
And I'm hoping then once you know the when, you then have to worry about the magnitude. I hope it's going to be a minor event, because it doesn't have to be, earth destroying. I mean, it's not going to destroy the earth, but certainly the ash cloud is not going to help anyone. But it is the largest potential threat that we're facing right now. Which, and there's, there's nothing we can do about it. Like we can't send, Bruce Willis in a space rocket to blow the asteroid out of orbit or whatever. We can't do that. We can't put a plug into Yellowstone. There's literally nothing we can do unless we could somehow release the pressure. If there was like some kind of venting system we could invent, do you know what I mean? That we insert into the earth and that somehow, vents the pressure. Because this is what it is. Pressure is building. Think of say you're boiling potatoes and you put a lid on your pot, right? And what will happen is the water is boiling the starch, and it will try to get out of the pot. Now, if you hold the pot down, the pressure will just build, right?
Yeah.
In a bad case scenario, you've got a weak pot. The pot is going to crack. That's what's happening here, right? And ideally, what you have, you have some kind of a vent, a valve, if you will, in the lid or somewhere in the pot where the excess pressure, the heat, could simply be siphoned off, right? That's what pressure valves are for. Now, clearly,
and dikes. That's right.
Yeah, clearly we don't have that technology. If we did, then we might have a chance. As it stands, though, I don't know. I mean, short of evacuating maybe the planet, as it were, I don't know what our options are.
Well, I'm just going to put this out there, Mackie. Honestly, it's a when for Yellowstone.
Yeah.
There are already talks about how they might be able to do that.
Yeah.
By, dropping bombs or whatever it is into the cold area, trying to drill down, maybe. Science is trying to work on something. Because they recognise that it's a problem.
Yeah.
But I think we have, there's earthquakes currently through the volcanic Mount St. Helens joins up to a row of, I think, 5 volcanoes. There's earthquakes there at the moment. So there may be this pressure, and some people are theorizing what the pressure is. The expanding Earth theory, that it's expanding from the inside out. When it gets hotter, it expands and needs to leak out. There's also the Sumatran volcano. 500 years or 700 years it hasn't been doing anything, and suddenly it's now back to life again. So look, we're living in an era where I remember when I grew up, Maggie, that there was occasional 6 earthquakes around, occasional every 10 years or something, and now we're getting, it's like every week that goes past there's 5s everywhere, and higher, and now we've got volcanism nearly off the charts. So look, I think we have to see the end through to see what happens with it.
Yeah.
But certainly, if you haven't already got your survival kit, you need to, and don't be anywhere where a pyroclastic flow can take you out, because Mackie, you've seen this, right? We know Pompeii. We know what happens, right? 1200 degree dust cloud comes pushing where you are. You're instantly baked, and the moment it settles, it goes as hard as concrete.
Yeah.
Like an avalanche.
Yeah.
The crystalline structures, just as soon as it starts moving, it is solid, and you're cooked. You're baked from in a hollow now. This is just a hollow where you used to be.
In fact, scientists said that the victims in Guatemala reminded them of Pompeii.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Unfortunately, That's what happens. So, have a place to go, have an emergency plan with your family, know where your loved ones are, and if you're both separated by a catastrophe, make sure you can contact each other via a third party. Organise this at least across the US or worldwide. Try to make some way of being able to do it. Cell phone towers, Mickey, are out in Hawaii now.
Is that right?
It's in the southern part of the island, yeah, because they lost that geothermic power source. That's gone. The power plant is gone, right? So that supplied power to all of that, all the infrastructure in the south end of the island. It's all gone pretty much from Mauna up, is alive, but from Kilauea on. So look, think about where you are, think about safety plans, just be natural. Be natural about it, make a plan, then you have to worry anymore. Mickey, I got one point. I've been doing some research on the FEMA camp Walmarts and the growing need to act, apparently, if that's what you want to call it. That's my split.
Okay.
It appears, though, there's leaked images that at least one Walmart has been converted into a camp to house children who cross the border into the US illegally.
Okay.
It's been converted. Now, I've seen the image, and the image shows at least 12-foot high cyclone fencing sections, sectioning off, generators and porta potties, water pumps, and some infrastructure. But it's got looped razor wire on the top. This is inside the building. And then there's smaller, like cyclone fenced areas where there's only a thin foam mattress on the ground with a person, like a child, lying on it with one of those, those looks like aluminium foil blankets, the heat blankets. But there's just a sea of them. There's a sea of children lying on the floor without even a stretcher to lie on,
Yeah.
Not even that. And there's at least 1,000 children in this single facility. Now, I started examining that further, and I got to the point where a West congressman attempted to gain access, but was denied. He'd called up, and they said, just turn up. So he turned up, and the staff there wouldn't let him in. In fact, they did more than that. They called the police on him. And he was still not given access to go inside and have a look.
Interesting. That's a U.S. senator, right? That wasn't allowed.
A congressman. That's right. He signs off the bills for everything, right?
Well,
there's a pun in that.
That's what we.
Right? He signs the bills. Now, he wasn't allowed, and the police wouldn't let him in. And the facility, there's been some leaked photos coming out.
Yeah.
And I've sent Meki a video of it in which you can look at this later on. But I was completely surprised by that. Now, that's right on the money. It means that the FEMA camp people, the people who are open to new ideas, who have been examining this, were right on the money. That this is easily converted into a prison camp. Maybe this is one of those things they'd said, you know what? Let's give it a shot and see how quickly we can do it. Let's get our learnings from housing the children. Yeah? And then we know how to apply this, and we've got a blueprint for the rest of them. That makes sense, right?
It does.
If there was soon, let's have a dry run, like a proof of concept, yeah?
Look, since concentration camps were invented by the British some time ago, and then perfected to some extent by the Germans. Well, they were. The Germans and the Russians.
There. That's good.
Well, you have to call a spade, right? But and then the Germans and the Russians just now with Guantanamo Bay and so forth. I guess we had a very specific use case. But what we're seeing, look, obviously America is very familiar with the Costco and Walmart concept. In Australia, we're getting them slowly as well. The rest of the world might not have that same experience. You have to understand that these are gigantic warehouses, very tall, and pretty much an open space. This is like an open
Concrete
space filled
tilt-ups.
Yeah, absolutely. They have shelves, obviously, in there, for the goods and services. But this is stuff can be moved away very, very quickly to make space for whatever. Like Dave has just pointed out, enclosed 12-foot hurricane fences inside a building. Clearly, an average Costco Walmart is probably 30 or 40 or maybe even 50 feet high inside, right? Maybe taller, right? It's massive. These are massive spaces and thousands, and depending on the specific Walmart or Costco or whatever, tens of thousands of people can fit in there. They're the perfect holding areas for illegal immigrants, as it were, or citizens that don't play ball. Doesn't really matter. But I mean, these people are thinking about this, and I don't think any of this come up by chance. We saw the advent of these massive warehouses some, I want to say 20, maybe 30 years ago.
That's it.
But now they have almost displaced the mom and pop corner shop, the local, a row of shops that I used to go to. In Australia, we still have a lot of it. And we haven't really gone in for the Costco or Walmart. It's more like a shopping center thing for us here, like a small. None of these things happen by chance. There's always an intent, because the people that are making these plans have been making these plans for thousands of years. And this is where it gets tinfoil heady here for everybody. But virtually nothing that you come across in your everyday life is chance. Okay? Virtually nothing that you're exposed to, that people let you know, that you see in the news, that that pretty much constitutes your life, happens by chance. A simple maxim, which was bread and games. Bread and games. What does that mean? Well, the people at large, they want to be fed and they want to be entertained. Right? That's it. For the vast majority of the human race, that pretty much constitutes life. There's a few outliers, and especially if you've grown into the kind of world, a full belly, and something to stave off boredom is really all you need. If you want to be in charge of anything, you provide these things. Awesome. If things go bad, find someone to blame. Right? Now, the people that have been I'm being I guess, inclusive when I say people here, because I don't know if they're people still. The people that are in charge notice, and they've noticed for hundreds and thousands of years. They know exactly how to control us, what to do, and how to do it, and when to do it. The control is getting stronger and stronger, and if you listen to Solaris' shows, you will understand just how some of the it's a scary thing. So, should any of this surprise us, Dave? No.
No.
It shouldn't. Should it concern us? Yes, it should concern us greatly. Greatly. Craziness.
It sure is. That's sort of all the news I've got.
Nothing happened yet with the summit in Singapore. Did it? Did it happen yet? I don't think it has happened yet, right?
I've seen some photographs that Angela Merkel has put out.
Oh, okay. So look, I'm hopeful. Oh, here it is. G7. Oh no, that was a G7. I was thinking about the what's it called? The Trump Korean meeting.
He was talking about the Korean meeting, and I saw it with him and Trudeau.
Yeah, it is clear though that the rest of the world doesn't want to impose sanctions or have a trade war the way America wants it. That was interesting. So virtually none of the other G7 or G6, I should say, want to jump on the trade war. Interesting. But look, this week from that point of view was fairly quiet, except for these very unfortunate suicides potentially. I don't know if they are or not, but I certainly feel very sad that Anthony Bourdain specifically has left us. But yeah, so I really enjoyed all his work. I love cooking myself, love eating, obviously. But
that was the guy that did the international cooking show. He went around the world cooking the local things.
Yeah, he had the very but catapulted him to fame was a Kitchen Confidential. It was like an insider look into like Manhattan kitchens, if you will, right? It was interesting. I love that book. And it had no reservations. So essentially, it was him and a camera guy following him around all over the world, right? And anyway, and then he had more. In the end, he was working for CNN as a travel host, still focusing on food, but spending a lot more political and socially engaged than before. And he's broken bread with very famous people. Obviously, he had a noodle bar. He had lunch, I think it was, with Barack Obama. So yeah, a good guy, I think. He was in Australia as well a few times. Met with our people, but yeah. So look, it is what it is. I hope everybody is okay. I hope that you don't feel compelled to do anything that is irreversible.
Don't listen to your CIA handler.
Yes, that's right. Don't listen to them. Be all you can be. Just be who you want to be, right? And don't feel bogged in. I tell my daughters this. My daughters fight. Of course, they fight, right? They're young, like 3, and one is just turning 3 soon, and the other one is 4, and they're close. Eventually, when they get old, really close. But right now, they're fighting. So that's okay, though. Having said that, they come to me, such and such said such and such, and I said, is it the truth? No. Well, why does it matter? So if somebody tells you or bullies you in school or whatever in the workplace, and they say you're too fat or you're too stupid or you whatever, ask yourself, is it true? Well, the answer is no. Yeah, that's their opinion, and most likely wrong, and most likely expressed to you because they themselves feel inadequate or under pressure. Okay, so I mean, I know it's easy for me to say this, but I can tell you, I suffered from bullying in school. The reason being, of course, because my father was Turkish, my mom was German. I was growing up in Germany in the 70s, where not too many German women had married a Turkish guy. That's just not what happened. Think of a black guy in the south of America, in the southern states, marrying a white woman in the 60s.
Yeah.
And then you've got wasn't quite as bad as that, but close enough, right? People saw me for the first time. They go, "How come he's not black?" I go, "What?" My mom said, "What?" Yeah. So it was ignorance and the fear of the unknown and whatever, which didn't help. In school, of course, even though I went to a fairly good school, blah blah blah, there's still people that felt very German nationalistic and told me I should go home, completely ignoring the fact that I had been born in that country and spoke better German than they did. But that's beside the point. So what I'm trying to say to you is I'm no stranger to bullying and all that. And at the end of the day, you have to make a choice for yourself. You empower them by listening and go, oh yeah, I think they're right. And for the longest time I did, right? It was my fault that I was being bullied, which is complete nonsense. So don't give in to it. No, you don't have to. It's your choice. Your choice. Do you really care what these people say? Do you want to associate with these people? If you happen to be in school right now and you're listening to this, ignore it. School is going to be over one day. You will never see these people again, and chances are that you will do a lot better than they will in your life because you've gotten tough with that kind of stuff, right? If you had to put up with that kind of stuff all your school life, you're a tough person, trust me. So ignore it, because again, like I tell my daughters, well, what this person said, is it true? Like, for example, my youngest goes, oh, this person said I'm a boy. I said, well, are you a boy? She goes, no. Well, what does it matter what he says, right? So it's just how 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds fight. It doesn't change though. The mindset doesn't change as we get older. The subject matter changes, but the mindset of the bully does not. It's a power play. It's self-validation for the bully, and it's trying to gain control over something which they might not have in other parts of their life, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe they're just a-holes. Just it's possible. But yeah, so bullying, suicide, you can deal with that, right? Don't let it drive you there. I beg you. And if you feel different, believe me, there are so many people that are different out there. Paul, a good friend of the show's, when we first started working together back 8-9 years ago, and we started talking, he realized my interest, and then he learned that we started this radio show, and he goes, oh wow, I had no idea there are people like me out there.
Yeah.
I said, Paul, there are a lot of people like you out there, like thinking things and questioning things and having interest in really, esoteric subject. A lot of people. Don't give in to don't become standardized. Okay, don't. I'm exactly average. I'm a standard human being. I've got 3.5 children and 1.5 houses and 1.2 cars and 3.4 pets. Right? So yeah. So this is, and again, this week seemed the right time to say these things, Dave. I feel this is the right time to have this conversation.
I completely agree. And look, let's get through this week and see how next week is.
Yes, sir.
In Australia, it's a long weekend. We celebrate the Queen's birthday and all, but
she's not even born on that day.
No, I know. It's like the horse's birthday, Mackie, and I sometimes put those together. Anyway, I'm not that patriotic to the crown. And I think they've seen their day, and it's good luck with whatever happens next.
I think we should take a page off the French.
Of the who?
The French.
In which way?
In reference to the crown.
Yes.
Yes. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want
to talk to you no more.
I don't know. I don't want this show to become bad.
English kniggets. English.
This is just two coconuts you're knocking together. No, it's my horse. You swine! You English swine! I spit at you! No, but we should be a republic, is what I think. Australia should be a republic.
I think so too. Let's do what the US did. Then I can run down to
Yes.
saying the redcoats are coming.
Yes.
And have...
Correct.
I didn't have anywhere else to go with that one. Just reminding all of our listeners that this is show number 320.
620 and 300.
And we're in our 7th year on air and enjoying every minute of it. Look, apologies once again. Every once in a while we have a latency issue, and I don't think I can, even the recording of this on YouTube will still be suffering from the same issue, so apologies. When I hear it come from Mackie, I'll ask him so that we can at least edit together something in the archive. All right? So the show topic, Mackie, is mythological creatures.
It sure is, and we're talking about the ones that are really, really weird. Last week we spoke about the Ichirak. This week we're going to talk to you about the Lidurk. Dave, if you want to take the Lidurk or Lidurk.
Lidurk, absolutely. Now this is Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare of 1781. And we've got a picture here, and it'll be in the archive, in the show notes. But there's I'm presuming a lady draped over a bed, and she's completely asleep or affected by something. And there's a monkey, a human-typed creature, very small with big feet, sitting on her abdomen. There are several types of Lidurk in Hungarian folklore, all of which are said to hatch from the first egg of a black hen that has been kept warm in a human's armpit, or heap of eggs to reveal a magic chicken, a small imp-like creature, or a full-grown woman or man, sometimes even taking the form of a deceased lover or family member. In addition to behaving as an incubus or succubus and performing its owner's every wish, oh geez, now I want one, the Lidurk immensely enjoys hoarding riches. Over time, the owner of the Lidurk, will accumulate great wealth, but the arrangement is a deal with the devil. I see now. I fail to see the the benefit. Periodically, the Lidurk crawls atop its owner's chest, drinking his or her blood, and gradually leaves them more and more weak. The Hungarian word for nightmare is Liderosnomus. Very good, I'm presuming, Meki said, which literally means Lidurk pressure, from the feeling of having the creature's weight upon one's chest. The only way to keep completely rid of the Lidurk is to command it to perform an impossible task. Mm-hmm. After trying its hardest to comply, the Lidurk will grow so consumed with its frustration that it will essentially implode. That sounds like one of my previous bosses.
Yeah, I know. So just on that, in Germanic folklore, the Lidurk or Lidurk is called an Alp or Ma, as in Albtraum, or Nachtmar, nightmare, which in English comes to mare. So a mare is the same as a Lidurk, just in case you're wondering.
Okay.
So this is a creature that has been depicted by different artists.
Cross-cultural.
In fact, has painted a number of these pictures. I'm looking at another picture here that is very similar to the one he painted there, and there's always a horse looking in. There's always a horse, as you can see, but it's a horse. So the Lidurk, the Alp, or the mare, the Mar, like in a nightmare, right? Albtraum, nightmare. It's very interesting how this is translated into each language. The dream of an Alp or a night stalker, the nightmare. So what I'm saying here is clearly this is cross cultures, and there seems to be something that is affecting us all. And what it is here specifically for this one is what people now call sleep apnea. I don't know if you've had this when you're awake but you can't move. It's called I forget the word now. Paralysis, sleep paralysis.
Yeah,
so
right.
People believe that sleep apnea brings on sleep paralysis, right? Now I have experienced it a number of times, but it stopped, and this is strange. The sleep paralysis for me stopped as soon as I hung a dream catcher above my bed. That's when it stopped. No more. And for me, these were extremely difficult situations, right? One time, I remember I fell asleep I was living in Crow's Nest back then, in a house, and it was upstairs, and I couldn't move. And in the corner of the room, I could see a shadow moving. But as I struggled to move, the shadow ran away in a way. Like I could see it fleeing. It fled, and then I actually managed to move. I just wasn't able to move, and then I fought through that, and I was able to move, and the shadow fled away. So you can talk to me about this all day long, saying I imagined it was a very real dream, and I just woke up, and then it blah blah blah. That I know what I experienced, right? So, and that wasn't the only time. So it's interesting to see. So again, it is this creature that is associated with that particular phenomenon, and we spoke about this in the past as well. Sorry, that's just a quick sidestep on that. The next, and this is an interesting one, it's called the Impundulu, and by the name you can probably already guess that it's an African mythology or mythological creature. Found in the folklore of several South African tribes, the Impundulu, or lightning bird, is a human-sized vampiric bird said to cause lightning by setting its own fat on fire. Cause lightning by setting its own fat on fire. It is heavily associated with tribal witchcraft and is believed to be immortal, allowing it to be passed down as a familiar through female witches. Very quickly, a familiar is a witch's companion, usually a cat, an owl, things like that, right? A toad sometimes. The Impundulu was believed capable of morphing into human form to make love to his witch owner and to feed enemies, causing bad luck, sickness, and death. Traditionally, when a man became ill, it was not uncommon for his wife to be accused of secretly harboring an Impundulu.
Wow. Okay, the Pukwudgie. I like this one. The forest fairy of North America, Pukwudgies, are found in the folklore of several American Indian tribes. Oddly similar to their Celtic counterparts, Pukwudgies are small, magical woodland beings with poison arrows and the ability to appear and disappear at will. Once a friend of humans, but an accumulation of grievances and jealousies caused the little guys to turn against us. They've been known to attack people, kidnap children, burn down homes, and lead travellers astray, and are sometimes even blamed for staging suicides, there's a topic, by pushing their victims off cliffs. Certain forested parks and pockets of wilderness in New England are still said to be rampant with Pukwudgies. Was it 411, Meki?
Yes. The disappearances in national parks. Yep.
That's right.
That's exactly right. Now, again, the name Pukwudgies, but it does sound like it could be an Irish name, a Pukwudgie. Do you know what I mean? Leprechaun, Pukwudgie, little people, the fairy folk, and then have a very similar creature like that appear both in the Americas as well as in Europe. Again, speaks to me to either a common source or an actual person or event or people, as it were, that may still be with us. Again, a lot of these mythological creatures that we talk about, these mythical beasts and otherwise, have been passed down to us from generation to generation. Some might be figments of our collective imagination, sure enough. However, what we need to understand is that quite possibly some of these creatures, and we'll get to that. I think today we'll be able to finish it. In fact, based on reality, scientific reality. Now, there's only a few of them, but I propose here that in fact, quite a few of these mythological beasts and man-like creatures are in fact memories of something that we had much more experience with, and to some extent they probably still are alive today, just hiding. Oh, there's the break. Donate if you can, please. Ask the person next to you if they're okay, and come back after the break, please.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Thank you, and welcome back to Dave and Meki's Shiny Side Out, show number 326, 620, and 300. We're talking about mythical creatures. That's what we're talking about. We're also talking about not ever giving up. My grandmother used to say it's okay to fall down, as long as you get up again. And she did say that in German, of course, so I'm not going to repeat that for you here. And that's a lady who ran away from the Russians at the close of World War II with 4 children, including a 1-year-old on a bicycle and a washing basket carrying all her possessions, running away from the Russians. Yes, so if she says that, I will listen. Dave, now, hopefully everybody has taken the time to donate in the break. This is listener-funded radio after all. It's in fact the largest listener-funded radio station on the interweb. It's on the line all the time, and you can purchase access to the archives here for a measly $5.95. What can you buy for $5.95 these days? I remember when I was given like a pfennig, which was like a pfennig was like 1 cent, if you will. I could buy something for that. I could buy, like
buy more than one thing with it.
Just like I went to the corner shop, and it was a corner shop, literally, mom and pop operation, and they would fill me a little paper bag with lollies, and I out of my nickel. But I do want to make one statement here about the chat. Omega Logos. In fact, Logos is the way the Greeks pronounce it. It might be Omega Logos, but I don't know Omega. You tell me how you want to pronounce it. Omega Logos or Omega Logos. Has posted some fantastic links to some of the things we've been discussing here. If you're in the chat, you can see them. And in fact, please come to the chat so you can see them. If you happen to listen to this in the archive on YouTube and some other medium after the fact, see when you can dial in live. I know it's not extremely user-friendly this time. It's something around the 3 or 4 a.m. mark where you are in the States. Elsewhere in the world, it might be a little bit more friendly. Make the effort if you can. We'd love to have you in the chat, and we do interact with everybody in there. So please, if you can, that'd be awesome. Again, Omega Logos, brilliant links. Thank you very much. Dave, that brings us to the best-known fairy tale monsters and others. We're going to mention a few here that we go through them all. Well, we won't go through them all because we've mentioned a few before, but there's a few we will linger on. We're going to start with the Sphinx because this is a nice little thing, and then we will keep going. We've already mentioned the ogre. Mentioned the monster of Loch Ness, we've mentioned Bigfoot and Yeti. We'll just take it and mention all the ones we haven't, because toward the end there are a few which are very interesting, like the Kappa, the Neon, and Grendel, and so forth. So we'll get to those in due course. But the Sphinx is well, yes, a monster, a fairy tale monster, I guess, a mythological creature. The Greek mythology gave rise to a new folklore mythicizing about one of the most treacherous and merciless creatures called Sphinx. Sphinx is described as having the body of a lion and the head of a lady. Myths say Sphinx used to ask a riddle to people on their way, and those who can't answer her riddle are killed and eaten subsequently by the Sphinx. However, the next riddle asked by Sphinx was not specified by the early tellers of the tales. The one offered to Oedipus, that's the guy with the Oedipus complex, was like this. What animal is that which in the morning goes up on 4 feet, up on 2 feet in the afternoon, and in the evening up on 3? That's the riddle. However, many interpretations are available about Sphinx's riddle. Nobody knows what exactly Oedipus answered, but it's been said that he was the only person to solve Sphinx's riddle, and he was not killed subsequently by the Sphinx. Now, the answer, of course, is man, or a human being. What animal? So we crawl on all fours when we're born, that's the morning, and we walk on 2 feet in the afternoon, which is when we're adults, and in the evening we have a walking stick, a cane, and we walk on 3. It's us. That's the answer.
We crawl, we walk, then we use a walking stick.
Bingo, right? Or Zimmer frame, but back then they didn't have Zimmer frames. That'd be 6 legs, right?
I was thinking the question of the Sphinx might be, what's the unladen weight of a swallow? Is that a European swallow? Or an African swallow?
Is it yellow-beaked or red-beaked?
Mine was Python-esque when you're trying to cross the bridge.
I know.
Is your name?
I fight you.
Is your favorite color? No, blue.
I'm sorry. You have to watch. If you're not familiar with Monty Python, I beg you, at least the Holy Grail and Monty Python Life of Brian. Holy Grail, Life of Brian. Watch the others if you can. Meaning of Life. Brilliant, but Life of Brian, there are aliens in it, by the way. In Life of Brian, there are aliens in it. But yes,
what have the Romans done for us lately? So the Fenrir is the next creature. The Norse mythology says Fenrir is a monstrous wolf. It's a giant, shaggy-back wolf. Fenrir is described as the offspring of Loki, who is the god of mischief.
Yep.
Various interpretations are still out there about Fenrir. However, it's been depicted as the great lover of human flesh. The Fenris grows even larger with each person he devours. Myth says Fenrir is the size of a continent by the time of Ragnarok. In some other myths, Fenrir eats Odin and then swallows the entire world. He uses his lower gaping jaw to drag the ground while his upper jaw touches the sky. Well, it's been said.
Wow. Okay, and to clarify, Omega Logos.
Mickey, I read something else into that, you know.
Go on. No, yeah, absolutely. And that's where Hamlet's mill comes in. But keep going. Yeah, yep.
So, the Fenrir, the more we war each other, the bigger it gets until it affects the global conflict.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's an escalation of anger almost. That's all I could hear when I was reading it to myself during the break.
It's true though. I mean, this escalating, and this is the funny thing. I mean, in the Middle East, while there's fresh conflict now, it harks back thousands of years, and people have forgotten why they're fighting each other. When the unrest broke out in the Balkans, I guarantee you that very few people could actually pinpoint as to why they were killing each other. Right? You're right. It just becomes, it snowballs, it gets bigger and bigger. It's the size of a continent, right? It's a very nice analogy. And all of a sudden, bang! You're just fighting for the sake of it.
My great will be here for a while. Grandfather fought your equivalently old grandfather. Yeah. They didn't like each other. We still don't, for some reason.
And the funny thing is this. From a genetic point of view, you and I today probably have more genes. We're more genes in common than they did at that time.
Yeah.
Because the gene pool would have mixed and done and whatnot, and your grandmother and great uncle, they all married to each other. So we are more closely related today. But I'm more closely related to you than I am to that guy.
Exactly.
Over there, right? So that's the funny thing about blood feuds. What blood? Whose blood? And how much blood are we talking about anyway, right? So I'm sorry, I don't mean to be flippant.
Spill to make it right. That's my question.
All of it.
Poetic today.
The answer is all of it. Whenever somebody asks me something, the answer is always everything or all of it. Okay, yeah, how much do you know? Everything. How much do you want? All of it.
All of it. When do we want it?
It doesn't matter. Soon. What? But yeah. So the next one, interestingly, is called Bluebeard. You might have heard of Bluebeard. Blaubart in German also exists in German. So Bluebeard is a violent monster introduced originally by French folktales. Bluebeard has been depicted as a ferocious nobleman in the habit of marrying and murdering his wives. Actually, Bluebeard is depicted as a wealthy aristocrat, and he was feared because of his blue-colored beard, which looks dreadfully ugly. Bluebeard is said to have married several girls, but nobody knows what becomes of his beautiful wives. After marrying a new girl, Bluebeard would give all keys to the new wife, telling her they opened the doors to rooms containing treasures. And again, he would give her another key to the room, stressing to her that she should never enter this room, no matter what. He'd then go away from the house, for some reason, but the overpowering desire of her wife would let her check what's inside the forbidden room. The new wife would immediately discover the horrible secret of that room, that it was all bloodshed. All of a sudden, Bluebeard, oh, Freudian slip, would return home the next morning and would come to know that his new wife entered the room. The next step, well, you know what happens. The Bluebeard, once again, would kill his next wife and go for a new one. Interesting. It is actually a folk story. Yeah, thank you, Omega Logos. It's again, fantastic. It's a true story. It's a very interesting story. And I'm not entirely sure what it was warning of, right? I mean, the plot is, as I've told you here, and it's similar to what happened in Arabian Nights, where the Sultan was upset because his wife had cheated on him, so he could no longer trust women, and every day he would marry a new woman, and then and the next day he would have her executed. And the only reason that Shahrazad would stay alive is because she kept telling him stories. In fact, she told him stories for 1001 nights, at the end of which he realized that he could not kill her, but had fallen in love with her, and that was the end of that killing spree. Interesting though that this would come. And there's actually also a story in Arabian Nights about Prince Agib, who's given 100 keys to 100 doors, but forbidden to enter the golden door. what he does and terrible consequences. Is this a story that maybe even harks back to the forbidden fruit, doing something that you're told not to do, right? This is remembering our original sin, which in my mind we were told you can't do this, or you're not allowed to have knowledge.
Explicitly not to do it.
Yeah, and then we do it. Now, but think about this here for a second, right? We were told not to eat from the tree of knowledge. That was the forbidden thing. And then we were kicked out, so we wouldn't eat from the tree of life. So we would become like God, knowing stuff and not dying. That's God, right? In a very succinct analysis, and now that gives you a lot to think, right? And again, there are many mythologies or many stories around somebody who is giving fire to us. Like, there's Prometheus is one. Lucifer, by the way, means bearer of light. So these people, or otherwise, came to us, people, human beings, to educate us, to give us knowledge. They were severely punished for that. Severely punished for that. And for us, in fact, our longevity, our immortality was taken away for that as a sin. So we could no longer be like that, like we were before, it seems, before the cataclysm. So again, these mythologies, these stories, these fairy tales, they seem to all remember a common theme, a common ancient theme, Dave.
Hey, which one are we doing now? I know we've done Bigfoot and Yeti. We haven't done ghouls, maybe?
Ghoul! Yeah, ghoul.
All right. The ghoul, without the D on the end, is another folkloric monster or spirit associated with graveyards. Ghouls are said to have consuming human flesh and often classified as undead. The existing myth says that ghouls are likely 1,001 nights old. Other myths describe ghoul as an evil demon that preys on young children, eats the dead, drinks blood, and so on. Ghouls lure unwary people into the desert wastes or abandoned places to devour them. Wow.
I know, right?
So, yeah, we've got a very similar, I think, the undead or the zombie thing today.
Yeah, absolutely. Omega Logos has just posted another link to this is, in fact, it's a paper written. I want to see who is written by. 1 second. It's written by Denise M. Osborne around Bluebeard, and its multiple layers of meaning. It was published at the University of Patos de Minas. I'm not sure. I think that might be in Spain. But I'll double check that. Anyway, so I just opened it up, Omega. Awesome, great stuff. Thank you very much. Cool. All right, which brings us to. Well, we have mentioned dragons, but this one I want to share with you because it juxtapositions the dragons to like the Asian to European dragons. So flying and fire-breathing creature dragon is one of the legendary creatures with typically serpentine and reptilian characteristics. Dragons are popular in the myths of several different cultures from around the world. Mainly, the dragons can be categorized into two distinct types: European dragons and Chinese or Asian dragons. Dragons actually are the mythological representation of a reptile and are mostly depicted as a huge lizard or snakes in modern days. However, different myths are popular depicting dragon in many different shapes and with different features, especially in Asia. As per European folklore, dragons are described as living in rivers or having underground lairs. In some tales, dragons can even talk like humans. They are portrayed as evil monsters in some other tales, though. European dragons are depicted as malevolent, though there are some exceptions. Chinese dragons are the highest ranking animal in the Chinese animal hierarchy. They believe dragons as the symbol of power, courage, and majesty, and are considered protective, like, good omens, if you will, good luck. You might have already heard the tales, of some dragons, namely the drake, fairy dragon, hydra, the sea serpent. There's this dragon of the ring of the Nibelungen as well. So it's interesting, and I know we've spoken about this in the past, Dave, but it's interesting how in Western mythology, dragons are usually bad, right? Usually, and it's actually perpetuated by the Hobbit. If you remember the storyline of the Hobbit there, Fafnir, and And sorry, Fafnir was the dragon from the Nibelungen. The Halberd dragon was called. I can't remember now. Anyway, the point is that in Eastern culture, dragons are seen as something quite different, right? So what are we remembering here? What is each culture remembering? What event that was very differently viewed by the West and by the East? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
right?
see, in the West, it was all about slaying the dragon to gain popularity.
Right, right, exactly.
So dragon's bad.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, completely different view.
Talk to us about the Kraken.
Oh, the Kraken. Aye, the Kraken. It's Scandinavian mythology. And I know that during my daughter's cub boree, which was a huge event in Australia, they one whole like a state of kids who came, because we've got just a very small number of states, but their theme was the Kraken, and that was really interesting to see that they decorated everything, and it was even this huge boat with tentacles, Mickey.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome, coming up out of the ground to consume them. So the Kraken is a giant sea creature said to be a mile long that attacks ships and is so huge that its body could be mistaken for an island. It is first mentioned in the Orvar Odr, a 13th century Icelandic saga involving two sea monsters, the Hafgufa, the sea mist, and the Lyngbaka, the heatherback. The Hafgufa is supposed to be a reference to the Kraken. The existence of the Kraken was even acknowledged in scientific texts, including the first edition of the Systema Naturae in 1735, a taxonomic classification of living organisms by the Swedish botanist, physician, and zoologist Carolus Linnaeus. He classified the Kraken as a cephalopod, designating the scientific name Microcosmus marinus, although any mention to the Kraken was omitted in later editions of the Systema Naturae. Linnaeus described it in his later work, Fauna, or that one's got me.
Suekika.
In 1746, so some 11 years later, as a unique monster that is said to inhabit the seas of Norway. Accounts of the Kraken are believed to be many. Historians have to have originated from sightings of the giant squid, which can reach 18 meters in length. Meki, we mentioned at the top of the show, you mentioned this, and it was, whales beaching themselves. Is it possible at all that the whales are swimming away from a predator?
100%. So two things on that. Number one, we have analyzed the stomach contents of blue whales, which are the largest whales out there, and also maybe it wasn't blue whales, but anyway. So we have analyzed the stomach contents of some whales, and we found pieces of large cephalopods inside. We also found massive scars on whales, like the sucker cup, the sucker cups that the Kraken has, and we have seen whales and these creatures fight. Now we haven't got any footage of it, but we have eyewitness accounts of these gigantic squid fighting with whales. At present, so you're right. Absolutely, they could be trying to run away from a behemoth of the deep. So we have acknowledged that they can be 18 meters in length, which is from tip to toe. That's what we know. We didn't always know that because we completely ignored it at some point. Say, it's all complete bogus. I would not put it past the realm of the possible that there aren't Kraken out there which could hold on to ships and suck them down, if you will. I mean, who's to say? I mean, only recently, Dave, in the last 10 years, did we find the giant squid 18 meters. In the last 10 years.
Australopithecus.
Yes.
It is, and it breeds offshore on the eastern side of the lower island of New Zealand.
Bingo. Now, exactly. And that's where we actually found it beached, right? There. And sometimes, in fact, we found a few beached ones and we didn't know what it was until we found a really good specimen.
That's right.
But let's be clear here, right? In the last 10 we've been navigating the seas for thousands of years.
That's right.
And the scientists have only now found this thing or acknowledged its existence. Sailors have talked about the Kraken, right? This gigantic squid creature for thousands of years. They have, Derby monsters, and so forth. So let's keep an open mind here as to how big these things can actually get, because the ocean is big, deep, and because right, but they are well.
Yeah, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is with these creatures like the cephalopods, they can go deep. They can go real deep. They're really good at withstanding pressures, right? Because they can fill their entire body with water to equalize the pressure. So they can go very, very deep. Okay, they can deeper than most of these larger creatures, and we have no idea what's at the bottom there. None, zero. Could there be one that's 50 meters long, 100 meters long? Well, the answer is maybe, but maybe it can't exist for very long in the upper reaches of the of the ocean, because maybe the pressure isn't high enough. Who knows? The point is that we should not dismiss this out of hand, right? We simply shouldn't, Dave.
Completely agree. What are we up to now? The Grendel?
Grendel, yeah, absolutely. Like, we have to do Grendel because this was taken from one of the most famous poems in the, I guess, the English or Old English history. Grendel, the beast of Hrothgar. The beast of Hrothgar. I love saying that. Now, Beowulf is an Old English heroic epic poem set in Scandinavia and cited as one of the most important works of Anglo-Saxon literature of all time. So I agree. And you may have seen the movie. In fact, a number of movies. But I mean, if you have a chance, I actually have Beowulf on my shelf as a book. Very sad of me, right? You're thinking, why does Maggie have Beowulf on his shelf? Because that's what Maggie does with his time. But anyway, it makes for an interesting read. It's completely written as a poem, so it might take a little time to read. But if you have the time, knock yourself out. Dated between the 8th and early 11th century, the epic poem tells the story of Beowulf, who was a great hero who comes to the aid of Hrothgar, the king of the Danes, by defeating a beast known as the Grendel, who had been terrorizing the great mead hall built by Hrothgar and threatening the entire kingdom. Now, a great mead hall was the king's hall, in a way they would feast and meet foreign dignitaries and so forth, right? It's also the last line of defense in those ancient castle-like or fortress-like structures.
Yeah, put the bar at the front so they get distracted.
Bingo, that's what happens. What? Archaeological research has verified that the Great Hall commissioned by Hrothgar did indeed exist and was located in the country's earliest royal capital, Leary, which was 23 miles west of modern Copenhagen. Whether Grendel, meaning quite literally the destroyer, originally existed in some less legendary form, perhaps symbolizing a malevolent spirit responsible for disease and death, or maybe a particularly fierce-looking human enemy, is as yet unknown. We don't have a good description of Grendel, only that he was terrifying and killed quite proficiently. Now, Beowulf actually manages to best Grendel. Damn, I've given away the... I am your father, Luke.
No, I am your father.
which brings us to the next thing, which is the mythological kappa, Dave.
Yeah, in ancient Japanese folklore, the kappa is a water demon that inhabits rivers and lakes and devours disobedient little children. Oh, I'm going to pass this story on. The kappa is a word meaning river child. It's usually depicted with the body of a tortoise, a beak, and the limbs of a frog, and has a hollow filled with water on top of its head. While they are primarily water creatures, they are According to the legend, the cavity must be kept wet when the Kappa ventures out of water, or he will lose his powers. The Kappa is one of the most well-known folk legends in Japan, and many believe the mythical creature to be true. In fact, there are signs near some lakes in Japan warning people of their presence. However, others maintain it's more likely that the legend of Kappa is connected with sightings of the Japanese giant salamander, or Hanzaki, which is known to be aggressive and to grab its prey with its powerful jaws.
I know, right? I love these. And look, if somebody knows the Hanzaki, why would they not call it the Hanzaki?
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo.
So that's really the thing here. And a lot of creatures, again, still out there that we have no knowledge of, I'm sure, except for the locals, because they live there. Which brings us to the legend of Nian. According to tales and legends, the beginning of Chinese New Year started with the fight against a mythical beast called Nian, who had the body of a bull and the head of a lion. It was said to be a ferocious animal that lived in the mountains and hunted for a living. And if you think about the megafauna from about 20,000 years ago, I mean, we were around then, and a lot of these mythological tales could possibly relating to the megafauna we were terrified of back then, right? Towards the end of winter, when there was nothing to eat, Nian would come on the first day of New Year to the villages to eat livestock, crops, and even villagers, especially children. Again, this is normal behavior for a wild beast. You see bears and wolves come to villages and cities, especially up in Alaska, right? During specifically harsh winters to look for food because there's nothing in the mountains. So again, it's a description of how an animal would behave. To protect themselves, the villagers would put food in front of the doors at the beginning of every year. It was believed that after the Nian ate the food they prepared, it wouldn't attack anymore and eat any more people. Again, sensible. The villagers would live in terror over the winter, but over time they learned that the ferocious Nian was afraid of three things: the color red, fire, and noise. And this is the connection to the Chinese New Year. So when the New Year was about to come, the villagers would hang red lanterns and red spring rolls on windows and doors. They also used firecrackers to frighten away the Nian. From then on, Nian never came to the village again. According to legend, the Nian was eventually captured by Huangjun Laozu, an ancient Taoist monk, and Nian became Huangzhou Laozu's mount. So he was riding him, an ignominious end for a mythical creature. After Nian was captured, everyone had a big celebration, and the ritual involved in banishing him was repeated the following year. And so the ritual was passed down from generation to generation, and the custom of celebrating New Year with firecrackers, noise, and the color red has persisted to this day. Now, interestingly, in Europe, we have a very similar tradition around firecrackers and whatnot. It was meant to scare away the spirits of winter, because in New Year, obviously in the northern hemisphere, is in winter, right? The 31st of December is winter. So it was used to frighten away the evil spirits of winter. Dave?
I really like that. So we're going to do the Naga?
Yes, sir.
The Naga. The Naga is a legendary aquatic serpentine creature that resides in oceans, rivers, lakes, or waterfalls. Nagas are said to have black scales and can grow to hundreds of feet in length. Nagas are traditionally worshipped as personifications of water deities and considered bringers of rains and clouds. They are the guardians of temples and holy places. Most Kaliatran believe that the superior god direct the superior god direct the actions of the Nagas, and these sea serpents are honored with many titles such as the Maharaja Sarpa and the Naga who is God. It is commonly believed that Nagas live in underground cities, are capable of speech, and can use their heavenly powers to control weather and assume humanoid form at will. Mackie, underground cities.
I know, right? Yes, sir. Now, in fact, the Naga, if you're familiar with it as well, is meant to be this, again, the serpentine race. Remember the Nagas, the legend of the Nagas? it's all pervasive. In fact, some of the visitors, the serpentines, are called the Naga as well.
Yeah, completely.
So it's all connected again, right? Again, I have to say this again. If dinosaurs, and they had a lot more time than we did. They had a lot more time than we did. If the dinosaurs ever, and if let's say evolution is the thing, right? If dinosaurs ever evolved into a creature like us, right? We have seen pictures of that, all of us, and they look like the Naga. That's right. They look like like the reptilians.
200 million years.
It's a long time.
They had.
And who is to say that they did not build a civilization or several civilizations, maybe gazillions of civilizations far greater than ours during their reign on this planet? And then
Maybe they populated the solar system and then buggered off.
I
Maybe
would
they're
say
still
they
here.
did, and I think that's also true. I think all of that is true. I think, and we're so narrow-minded and so focused on ourselves that it's actually laughable. Anyway. Let's keep going because there's more stuff. Just one more thing about the kappa earlier. If you've seen the movie Spirited Away, most of the servants in the bathhouse or people that work there are kappa. They're kappa. If you look at traditional, if you've seen traditional depictions of the kappa, they look like the creatures or like the characters that Miyazaki chose to populate his world with. In Spirited Away. If you haven't seen Spirited Away, highly recommend it. Which brings us to the tradition of the piazza. The tradition of the piazza. The legend of the piazza bird dates back to long before European explorers came to the region. It's a North American myth. It has been traced to a band of Liniwek Indians who lived along the Mississippi in the vicinity north of present-day Alton. This tribe, led by a chief named Owatoga, hunted and fished the valley and the river and lived a content life until the great beast came. Described by French missionary priest Jacques Marquette in 1673 as follows. So this guy, the French missionary priest Jacques Marquette, saw this beast. It is as large as a calf, with horns like a roebuck, red eyes, and a beard like a tiger, and a frightful countenance. The face was something like that of a man, the body covered in scales, and the tail so long that it passed entirely around the body, over the head and between the legs, ending like a fish. So this guy, this French priest, saw this creature, and to me, it actually sounds like a bunyip. That's right, a bunyip. As with the Illini tribes, there can be found traditions of similar large birds and dragons throughout the world. The Dakota tribe believed that thunder was a monstrous bird flying through the air and claimed that these birds were large enough to carry off human beings, the thunderbird, if you're familiar with that particular mythology. In the ancient Buddhist caves of India, there can be found a number of carved and painted dragons that easily fit with the descriptions of Piazza. Some have questioned whether the so-called mythical creature could have been an ancient species of bird that actually existed. That so many cultures and groups of people separated by thousands of miles and years have similar tales of immense flying creatures is curious, to say the least. I completely concur, Dave.
Yeah, so do I. And the Thunderbird, there's still tales of people seeing a bird as large.
Yes.
Even today.
Yes.
The Menehune of Hawaii. In Hawaiian mythology, the Menehune is, or Menehune, I'm going to butcher it, said to be an ancient race of people small in stature who lived in Hawaii before settlers arrived from Polynesia. That was roughly, I forget how many years ago, more than 700. Many scholars attribute ancient structures found in Hawaiian Islands to the Menehune. However, others have argued that the legends of the Menehune are a post-European contact mythology and that no such race existed. The mythology of the Menehune is as old as the beginnings of Polynesian history. When the first Polynesians arrived in Hawaii, they found dams, fish ponds, roads, and even temples, all said to have been built by the Menehune, who were superb craftspeople. Some of these structures still exist, and the highly skilled craftsman is evident, the craftsmanship. According to legend, each Menehune was a master of a certain craft and had one special function they accomplished with their great precision and expertise. They would set out at dusk to build something in one night. and if this was not achieved, it would be abandoned. To date, no human skeletal remains of a physically small human race of people have ever been found on Kauai or on any other Hawaiian islands. While this does not disprove that a small race of people existed, it does draw the truth behind the legend into question. Nevertheless, that's the author. Nevertheless, there is compelling evidence, both archaeologically and in the numerous legends passed down over generations, that suggests that there was indeed an ancient race of highly skilled people who inhabited the Hawaiian Islands long before the Polynesians arrived. I have to say, a huge event, a catastrophe occurred in the Pacific, and after that, all the islands were repopulated. The people who built the Easter Island monuments, if you want to call them that, the people staring out in the ocean, where did they go? They disappeared at the same time.
Well, you didn't see the movie. They ate each other.
Right. And
It's
or
in the
they cut
movies.
all the trees down, and then they had nothing else to live from, right? Yeah, that's right. It was starvation. Well, no, there was a race that looked after it. And if the Hawaiians say, and I believe them, right, when they say, I go, what's that building now? We didn't build that. Who built it? It's the Menehune.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It's at least it's more honest than the Egyptians. You go, what's that? They go, the pyramids. Who built that? Oh, we did.
We did.
Can you build another one then? I'll wait for you.
Don't want to. Don't feel like it. You can't make me.
Then they point off to the distance, say, "What's that over there?" and they run away. Don't hate me, right? I'm trying to make a point, and I think it's important to note that there are still many massive stone structures around the planet that can't be explained, and I think if the Polynesians are telling us, there must have been someone here before.
Yep.
You know.
See, I mean, people like to take ownership. I'm thinking the Jupiter temple in Baalbek.
Yeah.
Right. So the Romans said, "Oh, this is the Roman temple of Jupiter," which it was. It's true. But what I'm saying is that the platform, the foundation upon which the Jupiter temple was built, already existed because it contains stones, or sizable stones that the Romans could not possibly have moved, and we know they couldn't. We know they couldn't. We know there's evidence, there's historical evidence that they could not have done it. So why argue this point? I don't understand. People make use of things all the time. The pyramids, the facing stones of the pyramids was all white at one point, so it must have been. In its day, it must have been magnificent. People say that was it was kept with a golden tip.
Beacon, Mackie. It was a machine.
Yeah. Bingo, right? And it was all white, so it must have been visible from hundreds of miles potentially, right? All those facing stones, they were taken off, because it's already there. It's there. It's like stuff. You can just use it. And you know what they did? They built Cairo with it. They built Cairo with the facing stones of the Great Pyramid. Right?
Mackie, it's not unlike another pyramid in Australia that was dismantled by the locals.
Yes. No, but it's
for its rock.
Yeah. Of course, human beings are practical, if nothing else. Oh, look, there's a gigantic platform. Hey, let's build the Temple of Jupiter on top of it. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Shortcuts, Mackie, that's what it is.
Of course they are. Hey, there's a gigantic statue of a lion carved here. Hey, I'm the God King. It should look like me. Let's recarve the head. Done. Oh, but now it looks out of shape. Oh, yeah. Well,
doesn't matter.
We screwed that one up.
Have that man executed.
Yeah, boom, right? I didn't get a harumph out of him. So look, it's exactly that's the human beings are practical. They are. I mean, we are, and we like to take ownership. The building of the pyramids. He built those. Khufu, Cheops. Yeah, sure he did. No, he did not. Which brings us to Quipactli, the Aztec creator. So we're now in South America here. The Aztecs of Mexico held the belief, or Mexico, that the earth was created from the destruction of a large sea demon, created by and known to the gods as Quipactli. Quipactli was described in many fashions: a crocodile with toad and fish characteristics, a sea demon or monster. Regardless of the description, the Aztecs considered this asexual sea monster the source of the cosmos. Quipactli's appetite was insatiable, and each joint of the creature bore a mouth. As the gods began the process of creation, they soon realized that the other creations would fall into the void and be devoured by the demon. So they decided to destroy Kipakli. Tezcatlipoca lured the monster in and lost a foot to its insatiable appetite before the gods were able to defeat it. Kipakli put up a fight, but in the end, the gods prevailed. They pulled Kipakli's body in 4 directions and freed the universe from its body. Then Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl created the heavens and the earth and everything therein from Kipakli's body. The creature's head became the 13th heavens, its tail the underworld, its midsection the earth, and it's interesting, Middle Earth, right? Anyway, interesting that what we're seeing here, interesting whether this is a real creature or not. We're seeing the battle between chaos and order, entropy and in the expanding universe, right? Everything is heading to an entropic state, so everything is moving away from order. Interestingly enough, but yet we have the self-organizing principle that we see as well. So this is quantum physics in a nutshell for you, right here, and I find it fascinating. Again, this particular story, I think, is told to preserve this kernel of truth about the nature of the universe, right? Order versus chaos, right? And moving towards a state of entropy. And we actually have to work hard in order to defeat it, to avoid it. Entropy, that is.
Mackie, I also read something else into this, and I hear of a giant something that started consuming the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, and as a result of destroying it, the universe was still remains, or was brought about as a result of that.
In fact, there's a void 1 billion light years across.
Yeah.
Have you seen that picture?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with our latest technology, we see this. We see the universe.
It's a place of nothing.
Yeah, a place of nothing, 1 billion light years across. Now, is this story remembering that? A gigantic black hole, maybe, right? That, or something that just ate the universe essentially, and we, being part of that cosmological family, maybe that defeated whatever that was, or we were part of the solution since eons have passed since, but we're remembering it in this particular story because that void exists. It's 1 billion light years across.
Just to give you some scale, our galaxy, the Milky Way, is about 100,000 light years across.
Yeah, it's bigger than your backyard, that's for sure.
It's certainly big. Becky, I know we did Griffins before.
Yes.
Well, let's move on, or did you want to go it again?
No, you're right. We have, so let's go to the 4 mythological creatures of China. Absolutely.
All right. So in ancient Chinese astronomy, the sky ecliptic was divided into 4 sections. Each of these sections contained 7 mansions, and together they formed the 28 mansions. The 28 mansions may be considered to be equivalent to the zodiac, right?
Yeah.
The constellations in Western astronomy, although they reflect the movement of the moon through the sidereal month rather than the sun in a tropical year. These enabled the ancient Chinese to mark the traveling positions of the sun and the moon, as well as to determine the time and seasons. Each section of the sky is assigned to a mythological creature, collectively known as the 4 symbols. These creatures are the azure dragon of the east, that's very poignant, the white tiger of the west, the black tortoise of the north, and the vermilion bird of the south. Apart from their astronomical significance, each of the 4 symbols is surrounded by various mythological associations.
And there's some final conclusions around this particular thing. Those who exist in utopian worlds or fairy tales are the creatures too strange and at times do not occur to the human mind. Okay, so what that means is there are many fairy tales that become legend. We all have grown up hearing such stories of supernatural powers and creatures, and I think we all are quite enamored with them. Most probably, your grandmother told you some of the more interesting folkloric stories that you have in your culture, or maybe your mom. Okay, but we all, like I said earlier, we all have stories that stay with us all our lives. Nursery rhymes, songs, and stories. And those were
Bunyips.
stories. Sorry?
Bunyips.
Yeah, I mentioned those earlier.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we all have those, and those are the stories we will remember for the rest of our lives. I will be able to tell the story of Red Riding Hood to my children until the cows come home.
Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel. And while I might embellish or add things or leave things out, the structure, the essence of the story remains the same. It is the best vehicle we have to transmit information down the generations. If you don't have technology or paper or anything like that, to tell your children a story is the best way to transmit information. Make it an interesting story. Make it a scary story. I don't care. But these stories were told to preserve information. They weren't just entertainment. Yeah? And we have no idea how old they are. Most of them. None. Zero. Because they were written down relatively recently, within the last 1,000 years. Most of them within the last 100 years, 200 years. Right?
Yep.
But Beowulf was written down some 800 years ago for the first time. It was recited orally, and it was remembered before then, right? And that goes with every other story as well. It is that aspect of fairy tales and mythical tales and all those things that is most important. That once you tell your child something, and over, because the child will ask for it again and again. That's just the nature of. I tell my children a story, they want to hear it again and again and again and again, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes they ask me to make them up, right? But if I make up a story, I'm not going to tell them the same made-up story yet again, right? Because I make up stories all the time for my kids. I can never tell the same story that I made up. They ask me, "Oh, can you tell me the story of the lollipop giant again?"
Oh, jeez, I don't remember that. I'll just do another one.
Right? Yeah.
I made it up.
They will remember some of it, right? They go, "Oh, that's not what you said before." But if I stick,
I'll do that too.
Right? But if I stick to stories like Little Red Riding Hood or whatever it might be, right? Seven Dwarfs, Snow White, all that stuff. Then we not only that, these days there's a cultural thread there as well, and these stories will live on forever, as long as they're human beings in the universe. Now, these stories will exist. So that's really the power of fairy tales and mythology. That's what I want to share with you guys. I think we have time.
We do. We've got to be quick.
We've got to be quick. Now, these are mythological creatures that actually existed. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, okay. So it turns out that unicorns might be real.
Yep. Researchers
in Kazakhstan were working on a fossil site when they found the remains of a giant ancient rhinoceros-like animal known as Elasmotherium. I'll get this one. Sibiricum. Thank you. When they measured how old the bones were, they found something really cool. The bones were only about 2,600 years old.
1,000.
Wow.
26,000
years old. That's what I meant. Scientists typically thought that these creatures died out more than 350,000 years ago. So that's some cool scientific implications for the species. It helps us understand why this small population of animals survived when their cousins died off and what the environment was like in the past. But think also it has an interesting implication for fairy tales as well. If these creatures are only 26,000 years old, they probably lived around the same time as early humans. So unicorn stories may not be purely fantastic or myths, but instead an ancient memory of finding an
Sibiricum.
Thank you. Passed down through the ages. Yes, unicorns could be real. In honor of these maybe not so mythical beasts, here are 6 real-life creatures that may have inspired our favorite monsters in fairy tales. These are just a handful of theories. But and there's many other explanations are possible, but if these are true, they say something really cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the first one is in fact the Siberian unicorn, right, that Jeff just mentioned. They might have been a bit less majestic than the actual unicorn. Oh, sorry, than the unicorn we have in our mythology. But essentially, it was nearly the size of a mammoth, right? Covered in fur and built like a tank with a 24/7 gym membership, right? So that's the unicorn we're talking about. There's this picture here as well, which is truly like there's a huge horn on this beast's head. Next one is Herodotus. was a Greek writer known for writing down just about anything he heard, a habit that earned him the title the father of history, Herodotus. But some of the things he wrote down were kind of weird, like his story that India was full of giant, furry, man-eating ants. The ants' burrows were also apparently covered in gold, which the locals would try to scoop up before the giant aggressive ants would chase them away. Sounds a bit odd. But it turns out that Herodotus might not have been far off his rocker, just a victim of a really bad game of telephone, or, like Chinese whispers, as you say. Because it turns out that high on the Deosai Plateau in northern Pakistan, there are big furry creatures that sometimes bring gold dust up out of the earth. Only they're not ants, they are marmots. Herodotus didn't travel himself, he just wrote down the stories of other people that other people told him. So it's possible that by the time the story got from Pakistan to Greece, someone mistranslated it, added the man-eating part because, well, it's just very interesting, right? It makes the story much more sellable. Oh, okay, next one. Also, a real-life Little Mermaid would make for a very different movie. Ursula may have needed to give Ariel more than just legs before Prince Eric would fall for that image. And the image here is of a manatee. That's right. So some people think that the common depiction of mermaids as half human, half fish creatures may have come from early sightings of manatees. In fact, even Columbus' crew probably saw them, although they noted they are not so beautiful as they are said to be. Haha, right? So, the Latin name for manatee order Sirenia comes from the myth of the sirens, who often look like mermaids. So the Latin name for manatee, Sirenia, right? Westeros isn't the only place of half dragons. Okay, this story here is around, head on over to Postonia Cave in Slovenia, and you might catch a glimpse of baby dragons hatching, or at least a creature that may have inspired the dragon. Olms are blind salamanders that live in caves, grow up to 16 inches long, and sport a neck frill that looks similar to what you might expect a dragon to have. The story goes that during heavy storms, they might have gotten washed out of the caves into the streams where people found them. And being a weird, long snake thing, they must have obviously been baby dragons. Potentially, yes. The Kraken, we've mentioned him before. Well, it seems the reports have come in of a creature 18 meters long, which is nearly 60 feet, right? So, we know now that the Kraken, the giant squid, is in fact a real creature. And like we said before, it might even be larger than 18 meters. And there's the... I just missed the last one. The last one is the magic Cyclops.
Yeah.
And that we think that might have been an elephant of the... a relative of the elephant, Dinitherium giganteum. Look it up yourself. The skull looks like it has only got one eye. That's what people think.
That's exactly what they think. That's right. And it's found on a Greek island, specifically.
And we made it. We made it.
Hey! See you next week, guys. Stay tuned for a roundtable with Jer Bear as well. And if you're in Australia and you can enjoy the weekend, have a nice long weekend. Everywhere else, just be cool.